Slamat Paggy, Mio here!
And Kido here to tell you that today we have snail people,
Living hair!
tornado surfing,
And 5 years in production hell!
in this anime adaptation that disappointed everyone.
Uzumaki!
Nani? You don't know what Uzumaki is?
Well, Uzumaki is a manga written by the prestigious horror mangaka, that means manga author, Junji Ito.
We'll get a bit more into the story later, but the series basically covers a bunch of events in a town that is cursed by the spiral. A bunch of crazy Lovecraftian-esque stuff happens.
Some of it scary, some of it disturbing, and some of it just plain weird.
The Uzumaki manga series is 19 chapters long and ran from January 19th, 1998 to August 30th, 1999, getting pretty great ratings from all who read it.
Later in the year 2000, a live-action movie was made that got slightly less favorable reviews.
Then, finally, 20 years after the manga, what fans had been dying for, an official Uzumaki anime was announced to the world!
Wow! The teaser didn't show too much, but it confirmed the series was going to be in black and white, and that hyped people up quite a bit.
It would also be some kind of American-Japanese collaboration. Adult Swim from Cartoon Network would be involved, so that would be interesting to say the least.
But that's not to say that some fans weren't a little worried. For one, the anime was going to be a 4-episode miniseries, which was slightly concerning because the manga, as we said before, is 19 chapters.
And 2, there have actually been some previous anime adaptations of Junji Ito's works, and all of them have been received with mixed reviews, to put it lightly. But in 2020, Junji Ito spoke quite highly of the series director Hiroshi Nagahama, I think I said that right, and said he was quite pleased that the series was faithful to his manga.
He said during the interview, should I say it in a Japanese voice?
No.
4 episodes is way shorter than the original manga. They did a good job of rearranging the series. For example, someone who dies early on now plays an important role later on.
Now at first, the production reportedly was not hindered in any way by the pandemic, but then, in 2021, the director said that COVID had forced them to structure the plan for the anime from scratch. Not good.
The anime was then delayed to October 2022. But no. The cast asked for the project to be delayed indefinitely. Really not good!
Later at some stinky anime convention, because of all the weeboos, they revealed some footage or something to get fans excited or whatever. Who cares? Where is the anime?
Well, creative director...
So exasperated.
Creative director Jason DeMarco would state on Twitter that the series would be out in 2023. That did not happen.
Finally, we got a release date for September 2024, but behind the scenes, there was some drama, some trouble brewing.
Regardless, on September 28th, 2024, the first episode of the Uzumaki anime dropped. And good reviews! How unexpected.
Very interesting, much curious. But then the second episode came out, and... oh no. Oh no!
Time to jump into the itty-bitty nitty-gritty details and watch the anime to find out exactly what went wrong with Uzumaki. Warning, all the names in this anime are Japanese, so unfortunately, they may be butchered.
In the first episode, we're introduced to our main character, Kyrie Goshima, who's a high schooler, I think, and she lives in a Japanese town called Karuzocho.
We also meet what's probably the second most important character, Shuichi Sato, who is Kirie's boyfriend.
Recently, a whole bunch of spirals have been popping up, and Shuichi thinks that might not be normal, especially because his father Toshio has been absolutely obsessing over spirals, to the point that he quit his job.
The most concerning detail of Shuichi's father, though, is the fact that he can move his eyes independently of one another and spin them around in spirals.
And that doesn't seem normal at all.
Anyway.
Shuichi thinks this town is driving him insane, which is understandable, and Kyrie goes home and finds Shuichi's creepy-odd dad commissioning some spiral pottery from her father, who's a potter, I think.
絶対に何か不思議な力が秘められてるに違いない。渦巻きは素晴らしい。渦巻きこそ最高の芸術だ。
That's enough for me. Kyrie, pack your bags. We're blowing this popsicle stand.
The next day, Kyrie is talking to one of her peers, Azami Kurotani. Azami has a crescent-shaped scar on her forehead that she got from a nasty fall as a child. Boo-hoo. Now, every single boy she has a crush on falls in love with her. Okay.
Kyrie and Azami later meet up with Shuichi at the train station, but Shuichi gets some weird spiral vibes from Azami, and he takes Kyrie and bolts. Not long after, Kyrie delivers the piece that Toshio commissioned, but runs away after he egads.
Something ain't right.
Meanwhile, Shuichi bumps into Azami again, and not only is she obsessed with Shuichi, because why wouldn't she be, but the birthmark on her forehead has now gotten bigger and twisted into a spiral. Shuichi tells her that she needs to leave this town before it's too late, and runs away again. Toshio is dead.
That was sudden. While they cremate him, Shuichi tells Kyrie that his father didn't fall down the stairs like everyone thinks, but he and his mother found a strange-looking tub, and inside the tub was... So yeah, Shuichi's father turned himself into a spiral, breaking every single bone in his body. If that wasn't creepy enough, while he's being cremated, spirals start forming in the smoke and funneling towards Dragonfly Pond.
Then, even creepier, Shuichi's mother sees her husband's face in the smoke, beckoning.
I'm getting creeped out. You know what? I think now is a good time to leave.
Later, Kyrie meets up with Azami again, but after a mini tornado blows by, she sees that the spiral on Azami's forehead has gotten even bigger and deeper.
While that's happening, Shuichi's mother is freaking out at every spiral she sees. This scene in particular is cool because of the soundtrack, which is, in my opinion, one of the biggest highlights of the anime, besides the animation.
Nice.
Shuichi's mother is not in good shape, since whenever she sees a spiral, she's haunted by her husband. This led her to shave her head and remove her fingertips, which was pretty gross to watch, not gonna lie.
Later that night, maybe, I don't know, Kyrie sees Azami, but as one might have guessed, her forehead spiral has gotten even worse. A lot worse. My word, holy...
Kyrie, understandably, is unsettled. Meanwhile, Shuichi is tricked by one of his peers into meeting at some place, but it was actually a ploy for Azami to meet Shuichi.
The boy who led Shuichi there was told that he would be Azami's boyfriend if he completed the mission, but after some betrayal, and one thing leading to another, Azami freaking sucks him into her face!
And Kyrie arrives just in time to see her... I don't know what you call this, really. Azami is dead, end of story. Or rather, just the beginning. Somehow we forgot to include an entire storyline about this kid. He's very slow, slow as a snail, and he only goes out during the rain, and he's bullied by this kid over here. So, moving on. It's time to review
Strong start to the series!
the animation, and the animation style is honestly some of my favorite work I've seen in anime.
The music is also quite haunting and sets the mood. Voice acting is also very well done, at least in the Japanese didn't watch the dub.
The story is pretty well paced, which is interesting because there are actually 3 storylines started in this episode. The storyline with Shuichi's parents actually wraps up in the first chapter of the manga, I think, and the girl with the spiral face and the slow boy all have individual chapters.
So I think they started those storylines fine, but as we'll see, the problems will arise all too soon.
Episode 2 is in fact not very good. It's kinda bad.
Remember the great animation from the first episode? Like, look here, when Kyrie talks to Azami, you can see life in the background, things are moving. Now, look at episode 2.
It freaking sucks! Anyway, in this episode, we see that the slow boy is starting to get a snail shell. Moving on from that, Kiri is walking home with one of her classmates who tells her 2 things.
1, no one knows where Azami is. And 2, people are no longer being cremated, but buried. Apparently spirals have been forming at other crematoriums, but only if the body being burned is from Kiri's town. That's mad spooky.
Oh my, how scary. This kid is Yamaguchi, and he's obsessed with making Kiri his girlfriend so he can shock everyone.
Although, in the manga, Yamaguchi is like 12 or 13, while Kyrie is 17 plus. So I think people would be shocked for the wrong reasons.
This is the start of another storyline that has its own chapter. Anyways, again, Kyrie continues the rather long trek home, now without her friend, I guess, which comes across a truly despicable scene. Animation-wise, at least.
Come on, Yoriko.
Here we have yet another storyline, which we'll abbreviate in part.
2 families hate each other's guts, probably because they can't handle being poor. This boy's words, not mine. A son from one family and a daughter from the other fall in love and plan on running away.
This storyline is rather poorly introduced and conveyed, to put it lightly. Having never read the manga before, I, Mio, didn't know what was supposed to be happening here. Are these 2 siblings? When they mention their family, they're talking about one collective family? 2 or 3 families? And who's fighting who? It was very confusing.
Kyrie meets up with Shuichi at his mother's hospital, where Shuichi notices her hair is getting longer. This is the beginning of yet another storyline.
Kyrie's hair not only starts getting longer, but it starts forming spirals. Whoa! And remember that snail boy from earlier? Well, he's now more of a boy snail. Absolute insanity!
Let's not linger on that for too long. Kyrie leaves school to get her hair cut, but the hair attacks the barber. Later, it's deemed impossible to take her to the hospital, and Kyrie is forced to go to school with her goofy cut.
Later, she visits the snail boy and feels bad for him.
This is your son.
Absurd! How can you say that's our son? What is this, some kind of sick joke? Come, we're leaving!
After that, Shuichi abandons her at school and she's forced to talk to the Yamaguchi kid again. Because Kyrie won't return his affection, the stupid child decides to stop a car with the power of his love.
I'll stop that car with the power of my love! Yamaguchi!
Now that's just sad. The next day at school, it seems the kid who bullied the snail boy, Boy Snail, has also turned into a snail person. Now both snails are in the pen together, and they're doing something that looks gross. Ugh.
But hark, it looks like one of the girls at school got jealous of Kyrie's attention-grabbing hair, now has spirals of her own. The two engage in what can only be described as a hair fight.
Shuichi the goat arrives to save Kyrie, and in the end, Kyrie ends up with a lot less hair than what she started with.
The spiral hair rival is triumphant, but it seems that having such ludicrously luscious locks has the downside of sucking the absolute life out of you. The true cost of beauty.
Well, it's time to continue the snail storyline. The two abominations have escaped the enclosure, and after looking for them, the teacher finds giant eggs!
Oh no!
Because snails are neither male nor female. Yeah, that's what happened.
I am disgusted.
The teacher destroys the eggs, which I guess is morally dubious.
Kyrie remembers that there's another storyline that needs to be wrapped up soon, so she and Shuichi boogie off to the boy and girl who plan on running away. But oh no!
Their families are on their way to stop them. The animations actually get really bad, guys. Oh!
The two runaways eventually get caught, but they break their bodies and wrap around each other just like some breeding snakes they saw earlier and escape into the ocean.
As much as I would love to dwell on that, it's time for a new storyline.
A lot of people have been walking around in circles recently. Apparently the town lighthouse has been turning on despite being broken down for years. Oh yeah, now the class teacher is a snail man. Unlucky. Skill issue, to be honest.
Kyrie and her brother Mitsuo visit the lighthouse, which is reportedly being investigated by some people, but those people have never returned.
And were aimlessly walking in circles up on the deck. Then they fell into the water.
And oddly enough, no one is concerned. Mitsuo and some friends go charging into the lighthouse because they think it's pretty cool, forcing Kyrie to go after them.
After going up a seemingly never-ending staircase, Kyrie passes some burnt human remains and meets two of Mitsuo's friends. She sends them back before finally finding Mitsuo and his other friend.
Kyrie figures out that the lighthouse turns on at sundown and that the lens must burn pretty hot, and they've got to book it now!
Unfortunately, while escaping, Mitsuo's buddy gets burned alive.
Skill issue, to be honest.
And that's the end of that episode.
Time to review!
Okay, the animation has definitely gone down in quality, by a large degree. Insane amounts, really, but the music and voice acting are still okay.
But even more than the animation, I would say the biggest problem with this episode is the pacing and the addition of too many storylines just muddling together.
Maybe things were better when they first wrote out the episodes, but now after reworking it, it's just way too much. The animation combined with all that is just disappointing.
Episodes 1 and 2 are by far the most important episodes when it comes to showing the contrast of quality in the series, but we'll describe what happens in the next 2 episodes quite briefly, in case you're curious. And also because in the 3rd episode, the overabundance of storylines is just
shocking.
Episode 3 continues the terrifying trend of spirals, specifically the downward spiral into storytelling chaos.
In the aftermath of the lighthouse incident, Kyrie is admitted to the hospital where there have been a lot of pregnant women coming in after getting sick from mosquito bites. Turns out they have been infected by the spiral.
Kyrie finds out that they are killing people and sucking their blood, which is a storyline straight from the manga. Very scary. That being said, the lack of animation quality does severely wound the scariness.
No, I'm serious! Those pregnant women were drinking blood!
Another thing that is distracting from the story is the storyline with Shuichi's mom, which is somehow still going.
In the manga, it was already over by chapter 1 or 2. Now, it's getting into Kyrie's current storyline.
Right now, Shuichi's mother is having hallucinations of her husband and is obsessed with getting rid of the spirals, including the ones that she thinks might be in her ear.
All right then, you'll just have to tell me yourself. Don't you lie to me, doctor. Is there a spiral hidden in my ear?
She eventually tries to remove them, and later dies.
and is cremated. What? That makes no sense. They already stopped cremating people in episode 2, and later we find out that they buried the kid that got hit by the car. So I guess this is just a massive oversight.
Riz Adult Swim, please do better.
I'm not really a fan of these mushrooms. They kind of smell like blood to me.
It turns out the mushrooms are placenta growing from babies that were just born, and the babies start talking, the doctor has gone crazy, and it's just a big mess. It's also pretty gross. I might need therapy.
I need blood now!
That's enough internet for me today. I am going to wash myself with holy water.
Shuichi and Kyrie come in clutch and both of them escape the hospital. But as soon as that storyline wraps up, we jump right into another!
Kirie's family invites Shuichi to dinner, rather casual considering all the chaos that's going on.
It's a face.
Apparently, Kirie's father's been making pottery with a bunch of souls in the kiln. That's disturbing.
Shuichi hurls a brick at the kiln, and a plethora of souls come screaming out.
Asterisk looks at watch. Wow, only 10 minutes left!
Now, a typhoon is over the town, and it's after Kirie. It destroys her house and sucks her and Shuichi up and spits them into the pond. Pretty exciting, with only 7 minutes left. How about
not over? They move into a row house because their house was destroyed. What about Shuichi's house?
If you believe the stories, these houses predate the Meiji era. I wonder how a crude row house like this wasn't destroyed by the typhoon.
I guess it's a lot tougher than it looks, huh?
But they are attacked by a spiral horn-covered man-turned monster!
It chases Kirie outside, but a piece of wood caught up in a stormy wind kills it.
There is a whole setup to the story, which is done better in the manga, obviously, but it cannot be understated just how abrupt this whole scene was. Now, with only 2 minutes left, maybe the credits will—
Look over there! Remember that kid who got hit by a car? Well, he's back, and he jumps, and his body falls apart. Then there's a stupid-looking jump scare, and I was jumping on a spring, and then he dies! The end.
Whew, well, I know a lot of you guys don't know the manga, but trust me, the story was butchered beyond belief.
Time to review! This is so much worse in regards to storytelling than episode 2. It's actually unfathomable.
Things are so brief and abrupt that the horror can't sink in, and in some cases just makes things seem silly. Although, to be fair, the placenta mushrooms was always a weird idea that will always disgust me.
Not only is it not scary, but it messes up the original story, which was, while not perfect, a bit more tightly written and mostly made sense.
As far as the art, the shading is better than episode 2, but there are a lot of areas where it seems like basic Flash or like paper animation or something. It just looks weird and cheap.
Really do not know what happened there.
Time for a good old-fashioned finale. After a time skip, we're shown a reporter getting trapped in the town, where everything's going to heck.
So, this all seems horrible.
Multiple typhoons have destroyed everything. Gangs are riding on tornadoes. Kirie's pants get grabbed by whirlwinds and go missing. People crowd into row houses and get twisted into hobo amalgamations. And everyone outside is turned into snails, including Kirie's little brother, Mitsuo.
Kirie, Shuichi, and the reporter try to escape with a group of people, but the others all go mad, and the roads all loop back on themselves.
After returning, they see the town as a giant spiral building, no good, and a dude that they met earlier tells them that Kirie's pants may be at the center of the town.
They skedaddle on through the town filled with twisted people, and end up losing the reporter in one of the buildings, which was honestly another skill issue.
They get through to the center and start down a staircase. A twisted person grabs onto Shuichi, and wow, that was borderline not animated at all.
Kirie also ends up falling, and they end up at the bottom with a giant artifact thing that caused this whole debacle.
All the townspeople are down there and have turned to stone, including Kirie's parents. Shuichi can't fight the curse anymore, and Kirie chooses to stay with him, and they spiralify, and the spiral completes.
After the credits, there's a non-canon epilogue with characters that seem like reincarnations of the previous characters many years later, replaying the same events.
But is there a chance they can break the spiral? Who knows?
The end?
Maybe.
Time to review! Episode 4 is a lot more coherent than the previous 2 episodes, though some things do feel pretty rushed.
The addition of the end story is rather unnecessary, but adds a bit of an interesting touch. That said, why does the technology and fashion look the exact same? I thought the idea was that the spiral restarts after hundreds of years or something. Whatever.
The art is maybe better than episode 3, still some weird Flash animation looking stuff, and the falling scenes were rather unforgivable.
But No. But if they had mixed that animation style more through the first episode and mixed it with the good animation, the change in quality wouldn't be so shocking the last 3 episodes.
Basically, they really needed to pace themselves.
But now, let's look at what the internet had to say about Uzumaki.
The first episode dropped and everyone was super excited. They were thrilled. They were blown away. They thought that maybe this was finally an anime that would live up to the work of Junji Ito.
And then episode 2 came out, and everyone was crying and soiling themselves and memeing it on Twitter, Reddit, and various other circles of hell. To say that people were upset would be an understatement.
This particular scene went viral. The bad kind of viral.
After episode 2 dropped, DeMarco, who spread false release dates earlier, went to Twitter to go spill some tea, spill some beans, release the cat out of the bag, unleash the horses from the stables, in a series of now deleted tweets.
That we will read now. Mia will start. It's fine. We knew this would happen. I can't talk about what went down, but we were screwed over. The options were A, not finish and air nothing and call it a loss. B, just finish the first episode and leave it incomplete. Or C, run all 4, warts and all. Out of respect for the hard work, we chose C.
After waiting so long, it makes sense people would be mad. Unfortunately, I can't tell them who to blame it on, but someone is definitely at fault here, and we all just had to do our best when things were imploded. Maybe others would have made different choices. We did the best we could with what we had.
But again, a lot of people worked very hard on this show, and I didn't think the actions of just 1 or 2 people should be the reason it never saw the light of day. Maybe that's the wrong choice. I truly don't know. But those people have a right to be annoyed and disappointed. I'm glad you are digging it.
Now, who are these 1 to 2 people that he's blaming?
It could be this guy, who everyone's quite ready to blame considering his apparently questionable track record when it comes to animation. It could be this director who directed the last 3 episodes.
The original director apparently only did 1 episode because I guess he was banned from meetings or something. We don't exactly know where this information is coming from and how it's substantiated and everything, but everyone seems to believe it, so it's worth mentioning here, I guess. That would explain why there's a minimal amount of work from him in the remaining episodes in the series.
It's also possible that maybe they ran out of budget after they blew all their money and animation skill on the first episode. Like we said, maybe it's some kind of pacing issue.
Regardless of why the episodes were bad, it didn't matter. After episode 2 came out, the anime was cooked. Any positive interest in the series was immediately lost.
There were some reports that, hey, episode 3 isn't as bad, but nobody cared.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you.
We don't care.
Everyone was just heartbroken.
And rightfully so, I dare say.
Now, Uzumaki belongs in a pile of a bunch of Junji Ito's works that were poorly adapted.
Much sadness, I cry, but I won't cry if you like this video, especially if you enjoyed.
And if you subscribed to stay notified about future videos.
Yes, we plan covering other things, such as
the bizarre drama behind Disney's most underrated movie.
So lots of cool videos coming out, and, we'll throw up some other things we'll cover in the future. But anyway, thank you for all the support that we've had in the recent videos. We appreciate it.
If you would like another anime video, check this one out over here.
And if you want more drama, check out this video over here.
But until we see you in that video, and the wise words of DeMarco's now deleted tweets,
goodbye.